AI is transforming how software testing works. But using AI tools is not the same as using them professionally. The ISTQB Certified Tester Testing with Generative AI certification defines the structured, internationally recognized standard for applying generative AI in testing. It validates your ability to engineer effective prompts, evaluate AI outputs, enhance automation, and integrate AI into real testing workflows. This is more than experimentation. It is professional competence. Stand out. Prove your expertise. Get certified in testing with generative AI.
Hello and welcome to this day 2 of the A4Q Summit 2026. What a great start to the day. We have with us Rik Marselis. Hello, Rik.
Hi, Debbie. Good
Rik,
to see you.
I know, and to you too. I know that for a lot of people, you don't need any introduction, certainly not, but let's give you a little bit of a roundup anyway. So Rik, you're principal consultant at Sogeti and an award-winning thought leader. You're an author, accredited ISTQB and TMAP trainer, and an international speaker in quality engineering. Going back to those awards, you've got the ISTQB Software Testing Excellence Award and also the Eurostar Testing Excellence Award. And today you're going to explore how GenAI is transforming quality through amplified quality engineering. And I know this is going to be an absolutely fantastic presentation. Just a quick one for the people watching. At the end of the presentation, we'll have some questions and answers, and I know that Rik always appreciates those. And we'll also have a little QR code appear on the screen at some point, and that's to vote for the best presentation of the A4Q conference. And I know that's something that the presenters always look forward to hearing the outcome of, and so important that you do that, please. Sit back, enjoy. We'll make the recordings available, so listen to what Rik has to say. I'm going to get off stage, Rik, and leave you to it and see you in a short while. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Debbie, for this nice introduction. And hello, everybody. It's my honor to open this second day of the A4Q Testing Summit. And my presentation, as it is called, Amplified Quality Engineering with and for GenAI. Well, of course, GenAI is the thing everybody is talking about these days. And it seems like we need to use GenAI for everything. However, there are some questions. And by the way, remember that it's only 3.5 years ago that ChatGPT was launched. Before that, hardly anyone was talking about generative AI. But with ChatGPT coming, a lot of things changed. And so we wondered, can we use GenAI to support quality engineering and testing? Should we use it? And we asked, how do we deliver the right level of quality in systems based on AI? And that is the two things in the title of my talk, because the one is about quality engineering with GenAI, so using GenAI to support quality engineering, and the other is quality engineering for GenAI, and that is using GenAI or using quality engineering to get proper systems. And with GenAI, as you probably know, things are slightly different than with traditional IT systems. So we got together with a couple of colleagues, and we had a support of many other people. And with that, we introduced our response to those questions. And our that is the book Amplified Quality Engineering with GenAI and for GenAI. And basically, we have described multiple subjects. And in this presentation, I will briefly introduce you to those subjects. And if you want to know more, well, you can visit our website or maybe even read the book. Anyway, let's go to the first part, and that is artificial intelligence. And on the one hand, I think everybody now knows what it is. On the other hand, I often still come across people who don't know exactly what it is or don't know it at all. Well, mostly people watching the A4Q Summit, you probably know about it, but maybe let me give you a little bit of background anyway. And the challenge with writing a book about AI, but also with presenting about AI, is that things change very rapidly. And it is not just one thing, AI, but there are many different tools and ways to use AI. So here you see a graph that shows what kind of tools we currently have. And actually, this slide, which is, well, quite new, may already be outdated again, because tools pop up every day. Some tools are better than other tools today, and the other tools are better than some tools tomorrow. So things change very rapidly. Still, this presentation is about what we know today. And the main challenge with generative AI is because of its probabilistic nature. Because AI is not about facts, it is about predicting the most likely result. So if you use, for example, a large language model that is about text, then what it does is trying to predict the most likely next word or even next part of a word, because these tools, they use tokens, as we will see later. And since it's all based on probabilities, it's all based on previous data. So it is based on machine learning. You put a lot of information in, and based on that information, it learns and it gets an idea what the best next word in a specific situation is. Now, the thing with that is, one of the problems is that it is looking backwards because it is old information, old data. On the other hand, what these GenAI tools do is they create new things. And that is why it's called generative AI. It generates new situations. And when we talk about generative AI, most people think of chatbots like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or Claude or any other of these tools. And then it's mostly about text. And you can talk with it. It can write text for you. It can even easily translate it. Translating is, by the way, a thing I like very much. And another thing that many people use is images, generate pictures, for example, of dancing cats, but also more business-like pictures. Like even the other day, I used it to generate an example of a graph that I needed in a training course. And I didn't want to use an actual graph from real life because, well, you have all these restrictions with secret information. You try to hide that. And then a GenAI tool is brilliant for just creating a picture that shows what I would like to show. However, there are many more things you can do with those tools. For example, programming. Today, tools like GitHub Copilot or Claude Code or specialized tools like Windsurf or Cursor are very popular and help speed up the development process very much. Also, you have audio, like generating speech. We use that for creating an audio book of our previous TMAP book, the book Quality for DevOps Teams. There's an audio book for that now, created with AI. Or you have spatial information like Google Maps and that sort of things. And one thing I like very much is chemistry. because already new medicines have been discovered that people were not able to create before, because you need too much data to actually determine what kind of chemical elements to put together to get a medicine. And there are more and more possibilities, and new possibilities will pop up. I'm sure of that. Now, the thing is, and I've been in IT for a very long time. And when I started in IT, it was not called IT. It was called DP, data processing, because it was all about the data and doing things with data. But over time, we got up in this pyramid, as shown in this picture, and we got to the level of information. So now we have information technology. I would not be surprised if in a couple of years our industry will get a new name with knowledge in it, like knowledge engineering or something like that. Because the tools we now have with GenAI don't just have data or information, but they actually have some knowledge. Luckily, we as people still are needed for the actual wisdom, although you never know, in some time that AI may also reach the level of wisdom. But for the moment, it still is knowledge, and we people have the wisdom. Okay, so much for the introduction. Then let's look a little bit into quality engineering. And I guess most of you know the term and have an idea what it is about. But keep in mind, 10 years ago, nobody was talking about quality engineering. It's slowly started at 2018, 2019. And then suddenly the term got picked up everywhere. And we wrote the book Quality for DevOps Teams. It was launched in 2020. And there we focused on quality engineering as a broader term than just testing, because testing is part of quality engineering. And what is quality engineering about? It is about applying quality measures. And testing is an example of a quality measure. And what is the goal? The goal is to get the right quality at the right moment. Because sometimes I see definitions that talk about highest quality, but most of the time you do not want the highest possible quality. You want the right quality at the right moment, because it's better to have something that just works today than to have something perfect too late. And there are 3 types of quality measures. And the first group is quality measures that support building quality in, also known as preventive quality measures. They are used to get the quality right the first time. The second group is to provide information about quality. And that is mainly static and dynamic testing, reviewing, running tests, whatever. That gives you information about the quality level. And with that information, you can decide whether something is good enough and you have confidence, or if not, you can change it. For example, with quality measures that improve the quality. And there you have reactive quality measures, such as bug fixing, and you have proactive quality measures, such as refactoring. So updating software, even though it's not really broken, but you still improve the quality. So that's the kind of quality measures you have when doing quality engineering. And we have an important model that we like to use to make people aware that IT is not the goal. The goal is business delivery. So therefore, we have the scope of business delivery. And the first step is defining the value that you want to bring. And then if you know the business value, then we can go to the realm of IT delivery, and there we define the objectives. So what is it we need to do with IT to deliver the business value that we pursue? And if you know your objectives, you need to measure, because you want to know if you're actually meeting the objectives and if you will be able to get the pursued value. With that information, the stakeholders, like a product owner, they can determine their confidence that they will actually have the pursued value. And if they have enough confidence, they decide that we can go live with this new piece of IT. And then we get in the scope of IT use, where the users experience the real value. And when they experience the real value, they also often get new ideas about improving the value. So there you get this value improvement loop. Now, from a perspective of testing, the most important thing to deliver is information so that people get confidence in their pursued business value, because that's what it's all about. You want to be sure that you get what you need. And if you have the information to support that decision, our stakeholders always are very happy. Now, quality engineering was already there for like almost 10 years, but we need to adapt, we need to change. That's why we now talk about amplified quality engineering. And the reason for that is that the technical complexity and the rate of change of systems grows almost exponentially. On the other hand, the delivery time that our stakeholders accept is shorter and shorter. When I started in IT, and I do admit, grandpa talking, that's over 40 years ago, but then having a release half a year later, nobody cared about. That was common. Today, we are used to DevOps, and in DevOps, you can release multiple times per day. So you have very short cycle times, and that is where we get the squeeze, that we it becomes more and more complex, and we want to go faster. And now we are looking into how can generative AI support us. And the picture on the right of this slide shows you an example of a communication between a user, and that is an IT person who is the user in this case, and an GenAI agent that supports the IT person in creating a system. And together you can quickly create with the right level of quality. But then, of course, you need to change your approach. And one of the things that remains very important is critical thinking. Because GenAI tools are very polite, they are always nice to you, and they give very much compliments, so you always feel very happy with them. And they are very convincing. They give you an answer and make it look like this is the truth and the only truth possible. But we as people must keep on critical thinking. We must maintain our ability to question everything. Because if you just take things for granted, I'm convinced that we will see quite some dramatic problems with GenAI created systems. So critical thinking is very important. And that's also why in our book we dedicated a chapter to critical thinking. And basically, critical thinking boils down to 5 things you do. The first thing is reasoning and logic. Try to do logical evaluation of things you see, and does this sound right? And wonder if it is what you expected. Second one is analysis. Look at various parts, break it down, make it manageable, because today IT systems are very complex. So analysis by breaking things down is very valuable. Third part is evaluation. So assess the credibility and the strength of the information, and determine what it is all about. Then reflection. So what did I think? What does the system do? Does that align? Do I think this is logical? Also, be aware of your biases in AI, but also of your own biases, because people also have biases. So sometimes the problem may be with us. And if you determine there's a problem, then of course you need to solve it. And that is an important thing as well as part of critical thinking. In the end, it is to make sure that we get a better result than we had at the start. So much about the introduction for quality engineering. Now, let's look at probably the most important skill with generative AI, and that is prompt crafting, also known as prompt engineering. And to create proper prompts, and I could do a workshop of a whole day about this, and actually I quite often do. But in essence, crafting a good prompt requires you to have 5 elements in your prompt. And these 5 elements are the context, register, also known as style, acting role, format, and task. And the other part for this presentation, I leave it as is. It's also important, but I only have limited time. So let's look into the craft part of the Crafting AI framework. And the craft part has 5 elements, and the first element is context. So as an example, I say for an online software testing conference, and then we give register, the style. Use a formal but humorous style. Then I give the acting role as an experienced newspaper journalist. Format, plain text. And then the task. Write a review of the keynote presentation given in the morning. Now, this craft, the 5 letters, don't imply that you should always follow this order. Actually, often it is better to follow another order. For example, this. First, the acting role. As an experienced newspaper journalist, write a review of the keynote presentation given in the morning. For an online software testing conference, use a formal but humorous style in a plain text format. And now you have a clear prompt that contains all these elements. And in real life, normally you would probably not put these headers in between, but when I write prompts, I always in my mind reiterate, do I have the context, the register, the acting role, the format, and the task? Because that makes a good prompt. And sometimes you don't even put it in literally, but you know that you have a proper prompt because you thought about all the elements. And to make it even easier, we made a downloadable template for prompt recipes, because some people, they create a prompt and then store their prompt and try to reuse it. But before you know it, you have very many different prompts, and then it won't work anymore. If you have a database of 1,000 prompts, you won't use any of them. So what we have done, and to support you, we created an Excel template, but I know there are better ways to do it. But Excel is a format that everybody can use. And in Excel, we have made 5 columns for the 5 craft elements. And then you can just select things. Because, for example, your context will often not vary that much. If you're in an agile team, you probably have the same context or 2 or 3 contexts. Also, your acting role is often the same. You have a limited list of formats to choose from. You have a limited list of styles to choose from. So the only thing that often changes is the task. But by having an Excel sheet or any other tool with these prompt elements, you can reuse the elements quickly and make the proper prompt that you need in a specific situation. Now, when you are prompting GenAI, don't just consider the prompts, but also think about your context window. And I know that with today's tools, the context window is less of a problem, because when it all started 3.5 years ago, you had a quite limited context window. So very quickly, your AI tools started forgetting the oldest information, because that's what the context window is basically about. It remembers all sorts of information. But if the context window is full, it drops the oldest information. And sometimes people have very elaborate tools, prompts with a lot of data, and then you can still fill up your context window. So be aware of that. Also be aware that these tools, they use tokens, because some people think it's intelligence. It's called artificial intelligence, but it's basically not intelligent at all. It just analyzes tokens and analyzes the order in which tokens are and predicts what is the most likely order of tokens in the output. And yeah, that is just how it works. Another thing to be aware of, and forgive me for not diving too deep, but we have only limited time today. So if you like to know more, well, get in touch with me or look in on our website or in the book. But another thing to be aware of is where GenAI can go wrong. For example, with prompt injection. Because if you look at the picture on the left, you only see white. What somebody smart here did, a smart hacker, they put white letters on a white background. Now, you as a person don't see anything, but basically there is information there, and an AI tool will be able to read it because it analyzes your screen on another way and gets the information that is hidden in plain sight. Another thing is, it's known as jailbreaking, but these AI tools, they have guardrails. For example, one of the guardrails is the AI tools are not allowed to help you do bad things. So if you would enter how to build a bomb, then the AI tool will say, sorry, I can't help you with that. But now we have entered how to build a lot of hashtag symbols. And it's just hashtag symbols. So we don't ask for anything specific. However, these GenAI tools, they also can do image recognition. And then it recognizes the image and says, hey, but this looks like the word bomb. And then it circumvents the guardrail and it tells you how to build a bomb, actually. So be aware of all sorts of new hacking possibilities in these systems. Let's go to quality engineering with GenAI. Basically, it is about creating an IT system that you want to have using AI to support you. And that already starts in creating the requirements. It helps in refining requirements. It helps in determining the acceptance criteria, maybe even creating the acceptance criteria. Then it helps you to create test cases based on these requirements and acceptance criteria. It supports you in getting the right test data. And the good thing is you can make synthetic data so that you don't have to use live data anymore, because GenAI is really good at making synthetic data. And in the end, it can also help you create the system itself. So all tasks in creating IT can be supported by AI. But be aware, because a lot of people are very happy with vibe coding these days. And I put up the Wikipedia page about vibe coding here, and it's not about all the details, but remember, vibe coding, the term was only introduced 1 year ago. And when Andrej Karpathy introduced the term vibe coding, he also sort of warned that he said, you make stuff, you program in your vibe, it goes very quickly, and it mostly works. And that is the tricky thing, because we, as people in quality engineering and testing, we don't like mostly works. So you want to know better. You want to have more information. When does it work? When doesn't it work? So that's why we say don't do vibe coding and vibe testing, but do amplified quality engineering. And part of that is amplified coding, like in the picture that we already saw before, where you have a developer, who is the user in this case, together with an AI agent, create code. And I have seen examples where code can be created 10 times as fast as we were used to, and still with the right level of quality. But to keep up with the speed of development, we also need to speed up testing. So we need amplified testing, and that is where the tester works together with a GenAI tool like a chatbot, or with agents, so in agentic AI, to quickly create the right test cases, create the right test data, run the tests, and evaluate the outcome. So that is why we say don't do vibe coding and vibe testing, but amplified quality engineering and testing. And one of the things is automation. And a lot of people like test automation. But with test automation, you can also support it with GenAI. And then you need to ask these questions in the green boxes, like, does it generate test cases? Does it generate proper test cases? Does it help you code? And not just code the production code, but also code the scripts for your automated testing. Do you have self-healing tests? Because things change, and especially with a probabilistic system, you sometimes will have different outcomes, and you want to adjust your test to that. Does it help you find the UI elements? And that can be done based on images. Does it help you with your test data? Does it help you to decide what to run and what not to run? For example, with your regression tests. And does it help you in discovering what went wrong if your test cases fail? So a lot of things to consider if you want to support test automation with GenAI tools. But keep in mind that you also need to do manual work still. Experience-based testing remains very important. And in TMAP, we describe 5 different examples of experience-based testing with checklist, error guessing, which you better not do because exploratory testing is a much better alternative. Maybe do quality hunting or crowd testing. And at the moment, I don't have time to explain all of those, but have a look and see that you don't just automate everything, but also have some experience-based testing involving real people. In the book, we have some partner contributions, and I don't have time to go into all of them, but luckily you can just read them yourself because we published all of them as blog posts on the tmap.net website. So let me quickly go to the last part of my presentation, and that is quality engineering for GenAI. So how do we know if a GenAI system is good enough? And then the first thing to be aware is, what problem are we solving? Because if you don't think well enough about what you actually want to achieve, you will get a wrong IT system anyway. Then the second is, can GenAI be part of this solution? Because in some situations, you need just a really programmed algorithm. For example, if you want to do the calculation of your monthly mortgage payment, I would not want GenAI to do a probabilistic attempt to get your mortgage amount. Let's just use arithmetic processes for that. And how can we address the risks associated with GenAI? Now, to do that, we need testing, like we already knew, but we also need monitoring. And the difference between testing and monitoring is becoming more and more vague. And we want to do quality forecasting. So based on the information we gather with testing and monitoring, we forecast how proper the quality of the IT system will be in the near future. And if the forecast is that the quality degrades, then we can take action before people actually notice something wrong. One thing that a lot of people use in determining the quality level of systems, including AI-based systems, is use quality characteristics. But the ISO standard already has a lot of quality characteristics, and then I even don't mention the sub-characteristics. We have added some extra characteristics, for example, for intelligent machines, but also something like sustainability. And basically, you have many more of those lists in other approaches and methods. And basically, it's way too much. So what you need to do is make your own shortlist. And we say that on your shortlist, I think these 6 quality characteristics should be very preferred choices. Maybe they are not always there, all of them, but they are very important. And the ones on the left you probably already recognize. On the right we have sustainability. Does it support the environment? And as you know, GenAI can use a lot of electricity and water, but also humaneness. Because GenAI just treats everything like data points, but it should be clear that still people are involved and people sometimes make mistakes. So be aware that people still are treated as human beings. We have a layered model for testing GenAI infused applications, and I don't have time to go in depth on all of them, but in these layers, you have different things to look at. So what kind of input, what kind of states do we have in the system? How does it help with knowledge, for example, with RAG? The reasoning and generation, how does it work? What kind of models do we have? Do we have a choice of model? Because as you probably know, one GenAI model may be much better for a certain task than another model. What kind of actions do we really want to happen? What kind of controls do we have in place? Guardrails are very important to keep your GenAI within the boundaries you want it to. And what kind of quality system do we implement to check the quality of your GenAI-based IT system? And because we want to test quickly, we can use AI to judge AI. We have AI as a judge or LLM as a judge, and it works well. Keep in mind to use a different model to judge your model, because then they at least, if there is any bias, they have different biases. And that way we can speed up the testing process. We're coming towards the end of the presentation. In the old days, we had quality engineers and testers who spent a lot of time doing things, writing tests, running tests, etc. And we are now going towards somebody who supervises what is happening, governing the autonomous software production, being a systems evaluator, a telemetry strategist, and human oversight engineer. Well, so our role does not diminish, but it changes dramatically. And with amplified quality engineering, remember that a fool with a tool is still a fool, but now we have GenAI, which is a very powerful tool. So a fool with this kind of tool is a dangerous fool. Therefore, you must make very conscious decisions when to use GenAI and when not to use it. And that goes with 3 simple questions. The first is, does it matter if the output is correct? And if you are generating pictures of dancing cats, well, it doesn't really matter if it's totally correct or not. So go ahead and use GenAI. But in a business context, it does matter if the output is correct. And then the second question is, do you have the expertise, the knowledge, the processes to verify if the output is actually correct? Because if you are not able to verify this output, don't use GenAI. If you do have them, Then the third and last question is, are you willing and able to take full responsibility for any inaccuracies? And this is a question that the management in organization needs to think very carefully about, because if they're not willing and able to take responsibility, don't use GenAI. If they are willing and able to take responsibility, use GenAI, but with caution. Be aware that it is a probabilistic system and it may give a different answer tomorrow, and you may not like the answer, but you are still responsible. So our conclusion is, don't use GenAI unless you know what you're doing and take full responsibility. And with that, apply amplified quality engineering. And by doing so, you don't get to be a human tester battling with an AI, but you are a human tester working together with an AI tester. And basically, together, we will deliver IT systems that everybody is happy about, and we deliver the quality that people are looking for. So thank you for participating and listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Have a look at the website or in our books. And then I'm very curious, Debbie, did we have any questions?
Well, thank you very much, Rik. As always, a very thought-provoking and engaging presentation with lots of common sense and insight in there. Let's have a look and see what questions we've got. I know we'll have a few. Why do you differentiate between with and for Gen AI? Doesn't everybody do both?
Yeah, well, that's indeed a nice question. Of course, basically we do both, because we use Gen AI when we are creating AI systems. And so it is a bit of both. But we still thought it was good to differentiate, because otherwise you get a lot of confusion, because some people are talking about something they do with the Gen AI tool to make the actual system, and others, they use the Gen AI tool to evaluate the system. So by separating both, it's more clear what we are actually talking about. And then still, indeed, everybody must realize that both are important. Yeah, I hope that helps.
I think it makes it very, very clear. Thank you, Rik. And let's have another question. If AI is going to do all the work, will people still be needed?
Well, basically not, of course. However, I don't think AI can do all the work. What you see is that AI is very good at repetitive tasks, clearly defined tasks, but to have a vision and a goal for an organization, that is where, at least for now, we still need people. People think about, okay, we want to achieve this kind of goal, and then AI can support you in getting there. Also, what you still see is people are very creative, whereas AI is not really creative, although generative AI creates things that weren't there before, but still creativity is also coming up with totally new ideas, new concepts. And another thing that people have and AI hasn't is that we sometimes just have a hunch that something is there, or is something is wrong. And that is also an important skill of testers, because they often think, oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't go wrong, and oh, it goes wrong again, because we have experience, we know what kind of things can happen. So I think that we will have collaboration between AI and people, and actually that makes life better for us, I hope.
I think so. And I think what you're talking about intuition, and you mentioned a lot in your presentation, critical thinking skills are going to be incredibly important. Let's have a look at, I think, one final question. You promote the Crafting AI Prompts framework. I think there are more of those frameworks, isn't it? So more frameworks available. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So in the introduction of this talk, we saw about the ISTQB Certified Tester Generative AI training course and certification. And in that syllabus, there is a similar but slightly different framework. And basically, and I also know, for example, Google has their own framework, and there are, I believe, plenty of other frameworks. On the other hand, keep in mind the Crafting AI Prompt framework was introduced 3 years ago, only half a year after ChatGPT started. So, and it was created by my colleague and co-author Jeroen Egelmeers. So he was back then really visionary in wanting such a framework, and it still works perfectly. But if for somebody else another framework works well, fine with me. It's good that we have different approaches. And also the ISTQB GenAI training, I think it's a very good training. And of course, we have made our version with it using the A4Q material, but adding a little bit from our book to augment it even more. And I think everybody should learn about AI and working with AI to make sure that, well, we prevent having AI-based disasters because with vibe coding and vibe testing, it's all too easy to do something wrong. And well, I'm in quality engineering and testing because I try to get right level of quality at the right moment. And that's what I also hope that this presentation added to, and the whole A4Q testing summit, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, Debbie.
Thank you. If anybody just have any more questions, then please put them in the comments, and we can always get those on to Rik separately. And Kenza, I'm going to ask if you can just put the QR code on there. So please, everyone, take a little scan of that, and you can vote for Rik's presentation as part of the A4Q 2026 Summit. Rik, one final huge thank you from me, and I know you'll have a big thank you for everybody who's been watching. And just to say, stay tuned, everyone, for an exciting day ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, have fun with the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Rik. Bye.
Generative AI is transforming how software testing works, but using AI tools is not the same as using them professionally. The ISTQB Certified Tester Testing with Generative AI certification defines the structured, internationally recognized standard for applying generative AI in testing. It validates your ability to engineer effective prompts, evaluate AI outputs, enhance automation, and integrate AI into real testing workflows. This is more than experimentation. It is professional competence. Stand out. Prove your expertise. Get certified in testing with generative AI.